Welcome to another edition of the Touchdown RV podcast. My name is Keith, the Touchdown RV guy. Keith, the RV guy. Today we have a special guest, someone who's ventured into the RV world lifestyle, and we want to kind of get his perspective on all things RVing. Scott, are you there?
I am here. Thanks for
Cool,
having me
man.
on.
Thanks for joining us. Well, cool. So I know you have rented from us a few times. Now, had you gotten into RVing before then, or was that the first time?
No, I know that was the first time you got me into it, and I do want to say it was something that we wanted to try some different way. Our families travel. We always
Right,
are interactive with our kids, and we go lots of places and try to give them new experiences as opposed to just buying them stuff.
right,
Um, and RVing was something we'd always wanted to try but hadn't. And you gave us the keys to that world and unlocked it for us. And I really
gotcha.
appreciate our relationship, Keith. Really, it's been
Cool.
so great. I've learned so much from you about
Yeah.
hooking up the trailer or unhooking the trailer. I don't know if we're going to get
Right.
into all of that, but you
Oh
know,
yeah.
it's been a opening that door for our family has in turn opened us to opening that door for our friends, because we've had friends
Right.
now that rent from you,
Yep.
and
Sure
we've
do.
actually taken trips to other states where it wasn't financially reasonable to rent from you, and go all the way to the West Coast or whatever. So we fly out and rent an
Right.
RV out there and have similar experiences out there. Again, I'm not going to go into all the detail, but it's
Oh
just
yeah.
a whole different way of traveling that we really appreciate you adding that dimension to our lives.
Cool. Yep. No, I appreciate you. Now you are one of the probably only a handful of customers who've done motorhomes and trailers.
Yeah.
So did you have a preference kind of looking back?
Well, I love the motorhome. I love the ability to just get in and everything's in there. The kids can get
Right.
up and go to the bathroom while you're on a long trip, so you
Yeah.
don't have to stop and pull over and all that.
Right.
You know, I love that it's all in one, and you don't have to disconnect anything, and you just pull up and you're there. You plug in, and it's a much bigger. I'm a giant, so it's bigger, as far as the sleeping arrangements and moving around inside the RV. So I
Right.
prefer the all in one. But the after renting a trailer from you a few times, I realized that there's just a whole bunch of advantages to that one too, where you can
Right.
disconnect and drive around your destination. When you're in one big unit, you have to disconnect everything, pull up the stabilizers, and
Right.
drive your home with you everywhere you want to go, unless you're towing a vehicle, which we've never done. That's a new one that, again, I'm a giant, so it's hard for me to say, oh yeah, let's just get a smart car and put it behind us.
Right. Right.
Don't need a
Yeah.
full size car. So, there's advantages and disadvantages to both of them. It just depends on the situation. If we're going to a place that we plan on driving around the city quite a bit, or the
Right.
destination, then we'd rather have a trailer, because we'd rather be able to disconnect and just
Disconnect.
take my truck. And I know you have a beautiful F-150 that you have rent out. That's just
Oh
one
yeah.
big, rental. And if I didn't have my F-150, I'd for sure take you up on that, because at least
Right.
one of the hookups is already done, and I don't have to
Right.
do.
Right, right, right. Cool. Now, when you did that first trip, like what type of research did you do? Like, did you have a destination in mind, or you remember kind of how that
Well,
came together?
yeah, that the first one, I had a destination in mind. It was a campground I used to go to quite a bit.
Hmm.
So I knew the distance. I knew I'd been there. Just driving a car there, and I knew that it had the ability to hold an RV, whether it was a trailer or a full size. Um,
Right.
so I had that already planned, but you know, it truly is an adventure though, because there are, like any road trip, things come up. You're like, oh, getting low on gas. I got to find a gas station. Well, if your wastewater is getting full, you have to know where you can dump that. And
Right.
that's
Right.
an adventure. And I guess the thing about it that's such a great family vacation is everyone has to do something. Unless it's
Mhm.
an infant. I love being able to give my kids responsibilities on this trip, whether it's going to get firewood for the campfire, or helping
Yeah.
us pack up. You got to pack up your backpack, and you got to make sure it's small for your area in the RV.
Right.
You got to keep your things tidy inside the RV. Otherwise, we're all stepping all over your stuff. Helping me get the cords out and the hoses out, and then cleaning those up after we dump the sewer. And so, it's very interactive, and everybody has a job when we do it. So we love that part of it because it's, again, we're not just buying them something. We're buying them memories, but also the idea of working together and experiencing a family vacation where everybody does something. And even if it's not the most pleasant activity, it's a learning experience. And, some of those duties are not that great, but it's also, again, something that my kids help me out with, setting up the tubes and the hoses to go down and dump if it's a place that has that actively in the campsite. And I would say that's one thing we definitely look for now is a place that has a dump site either connected to your spot,
right,
or at least one on property, so you don't have to search for one on the way back before turning it back into you clean.
Oh yeah, yep. And that's good. Now I do recall that, man. You had your son right there. Listen to this, another pair of ears. So that's cool. Yep. Now, did you guys plan your meals out or anything, or you just kind of free flowed?
We pack up groceries as much as we can.
Mm-hmm.
Again, depending on whether it's the Class A or a trailer. We try to get the basics with us in there, so we have some snacks for the kids, during the trip or once we're there, so that we don't have to run to a grocery store once we're there. It just saves us a trip on vacation, having the food already there.
Right.
So we tend to buy up and we stock up the RV before we take off from town, just so that we know we've got food with us and we don't have to rely on restaurants or whatever once we get there. We do still sometimes go to restaurants when we're at our destination, but we do definitely like to plan to be self-sufficient, and that way we don't have to disconnect everything and go to the grocery store once we hit where we're going.
Break camp, right?
Yeah, breaking camp is, if it's necessary, fine, but once you get settled, you kind of want to leave the chairs out, leave the awning out.
Oh yeah.
And just be there and have to pack all that up and drive out, go get groceries is kind of a pain. So, we do like to have all the food and drinks and everything ready, and then just get to where we're going.
Cool. Now, how was like the hookup part, the sewer, the water? Was that pretty simple once you got there?
Yeah, well, again, you told us everything that we needed to know. You really made it simple. We follow your instructions, and as long as we do that, we're fine. It's when we forget to listen.
And put me on speed dial.
Yeah, that's too. The first couple trips, I remember calling you quite a bit. Going, "Hey, Keith, how do I put these stabilizers down again?" And you're like, "Well, the instructions are right there." I'm like, "Oh yeah."
Right.
But yeah, it's always something, but it's never anything that's like, oh my gosh, it ruined our trip. There's some of the units, once in a while something goes wrong here or there, because like any vehicles, things break down on occasion. So, sometimes there's hiccups and things like that. But again, to us, now that we've done it multiple times, you learn more about what type of vehicle you want to be in and what type you can manage, and certain issues that go along with those types of vehicles and that are common, so they become part of the adventure as opposed to, oh man, this went down and so it ruined our trip. No, that's not how we look at it. This happened and we had an adventure trying to address the issue. And usually it's my fault.
Right. Yeah, cool. Yeah, now go back to your giant comment. So how was it, you're a tall guy, how was it maneuvering in the RV?
I have to duck in most people's houses, and so I'm used to that. I'm used to ducking through doorways and all that. But I like to have the space as big as possible so that I limit my ducking, right? So that's why I prefer the all-in-ones, the bigger ones, the bigger units that I can get up and walk around. I'm still ducking in there when I'm walking around, but then I can sit down and spread out a little bit better than, say, in a trailer. When we do trailers, we tend to be at a campsite, a shorter trip, like a weekend, and we tend to have just that trailer is at one spot, and we're not really moving very much. And so, really, I just go in to get food or drinks, and then I'm back out. I don't spend a lot of time in the trailer. But when we're in the motorhomes, then yeah, I tend to spend a little bit more time inside because those tend to be longer trips. We socialize inside, outside, or play board games or whatever, inside, outside. We tend to use the motorhome more as a home, whereas a trailer, we tend to use it more as a sleeping place. But, that, again, it all factors into what individuals like. But for me, I like more space.
Right. Right. Cool. Now, what about driving it? Driving it, and I guess you got experience pulling it. Are you used to driving big machinery or?
Yeah, when I was very little, and I don't remember driving them, but when I was very little, my dad owned a company that had a lot of big semi trucks and dump
Okay,
trucks, and so I was comfortable being in those types of size of vehicles from a young age,
gotcha.
although I wasn't driving them. There's rumors that I was behind the wheel, a couple of them between the ages of 10 and 12, but I'm not here to confirm or deny those reports. But it was surprisingly easy to drive a motorhome. I think one of my first questions to you was, do I need a special license?
Yep.
And I think that's a big deterrent for people because they think, oh, I got to have a Class C driver's license, and you don't.
Right.
And, do they take some getting used to? Absolutely. They're taking up more of the lane when you're on a highway. They're taking up more of the lane when you're not on a highway. And if it's windy out, you got to be careful with that because they are top heavy as compared to your car. But these things are to me, if you're a competent driver, these things you get used to very quickly. You get used to how the rig manages and how it handles in different environments. And you get used to that individual one because again, there's differences. There's between a gas pusher or diesel pusher or whatever, and the strength of the motor. They all handle a little bit differently, but once you get used to them, I think that was to me an unfounded concern. It turned out to be a lot easier to handle them than I expected.
Right. Cool. Well, good deal, man. Well, last question. What would you say to potential renters who are on the fence, a little nervous? What would you say to them to push them over the edge?
If you like shopping local, obviously this is local. If you like helping out a local business, same deal. If you want to try something a little bit different, especially right now when you're not really comfortable getting on an airplane, if you're concerned about being exposed to a large number of people, this is a way. I mean, early on in the COVID thing, we didn't want to not go anywhere, and we ended up coming to you and grabbing a trailer, and we took off, and we went and had a family vacation when we weren't supposed to be out and about. Everybody's like, "Oh, we got to lock down." We took off, went to a campsite, and we got out of town and still had a vacation. So it's the concerns that you may have about renting a vehicle or driving a big vehicle or towing a big vehicle. They won't be as difficult as you think it is. And with Keith helping you and with him on speed dial, it's just such a great trip, and it's an affordable trip. It's so much cheaper than putting your whole family on airplane tickets and then renting a car. Have you rented a car lately? Oh my! It's an economical way to go have a family vacation where everybody participates. You're getting your kids off the screens. And again, even if you are on the screens and you're remote learning, which again, back to that trip, the early COVID time, they were still doing school remotely. So we asked you for the Wi-Fi. We added on the Wi-Fi to our camper, and the kids were doing schoolwork, and we were on vacation. It was just it was a great break from the stress of what was going on and everybody not knowing what was going on at the time. But any time is a good time to take a weekend at least and try an RV, because it really is a life-changing experience when you get to go on a vacation that your whole family gets to participate in. And whether there's a little hiccup here or there, as I've said multiple times, it's so much fun. And it's an adventure that you overcome it. And it's like, oh man, remember we got the hose and we forgot to put the hose all the way in the sewer and it dumped around a little bit. Yeah, then we just had the water and we rinsed it down. Not exactly a positive thing, but a positive resolution and a memory that your kid's going to talk about. Dad, you messed up the sewer hose.
Right. Awesome. Hey, man, thank you very much, man. Very informative and very inspirational. So Appreciate it, and we'll be in touch soon.
All right. Thanks, Keith.
All right. Thanks. All right. Another edition of the Touchdown RV podcast. Scott gave us some great perspective on his adventure, his RV experience. So, any questions that you may have for us, we'll be happy to answer those. You can visit our website or you can give us a call, 317 662 0414, or you can always stop by our office. So you can actually, I'll call it measure for curtains. You can actually come out and look at the RVs and try them out sitting on the couch. Make sure it'll work for you and your family. All right. Thanks again for watching. We'll talk to you soon.